So has each group got a map reference for the Manuel's farm site? As soon as you've got that reference,
Why is it 8460? Right.
So you need to go. So
Yeah, either have another number on the front, or failing that, it's the like most of the ones around us is SU and ST.
we are interested in names around the area of Manuel's farm that might have some ancient origin. Will you as a group see if you can find any names that look interesting within a 3-4 mile circumference?
I don't know whether that one
to the
counts,
secretary.
whether that's too far away, and that's obviously an old one.
There's the TRE beginning.
And then
to
of
the
course
voice.
there's that one, as you pointed out, is and there's something
I'll
there.
give you a clue. There's a very ancient name on there, which is related to the monastic name. I don't know whether it's true in Cornwall, but in Welsh a monastery is called a monastery sites in Welsh or Cornish for all I know.
No idea.
All over Wales. What's the site prefix or suffix? LLAN. Clan site. Have you got any sites reasonably near to where we are that have got LAN? This is Green Group. Green Group. You've got the first answer. So Colan is the church of a Cornish saint.
Yeah, that's the parish lines, the very small dots there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I remember, yeah.
actually, it doesn't show it that clearly, Carl.
So you've got some column mine there, but it seems to be outside of it because there's that division.
Yeah, very similar monuments, so they tend to be thought of as Bronze Age farmsteads with Iron Age sort of succession.
You should be looking for St Columb Minor Parish, which is where Manuel's farm is. So these bits of information are on this modern OS map. Parish boundary might be the earliest boundary. Some parts of the country you have perambulations. The walking of the parish boundary, where I come from on Dartmoor, you walk, you beat the bounds, and it's you establishing where your ancient route is. And that route may go back to Anglo-Saxon times. Tim, parish boundaries, perambulations?
They go right back to pre-Anglo-Saxon times within the area, to Cornish times.
So Celtic times. That boundary that you now see as a purple line on that modern map, in fact, follows the route of some very ancient structures. What are those ancient structures? Get going, group, in you go. What do you think that parish boundary is going round? What is it respecting? And which river is the parish boundary most related to on our site? Yeah, good, the Gannel. The Gannel was actually a very ancient port in early medieval times. Now you've got Crantock, a beautiful little village. It's all been sanded up, and originally there was a very ancient port, and a huge amount of trade went in and out at the mouth of the Gannel. And what we think is that actually that port became gradually sanded up, but the original ability to get in and up these valleys is through these port sites, and the Gannel is actually a very important river, and you can see how it relates to the area of land that our site is on.
There's a feeding tribute.
That means there's a way of getting goods in and out.
Yeah, in fact, it's quite nice because it's a little too, isn't it?
Who's nicked it?
Do we know how they're spelled?
No, I've just written them phonetically.
Well, that's it.
I assume they've got to be in the same parish, haven't they?
Well, that might be a
Another little clue. Newquay, full of suburban housing. That is on the Doomsday book, and these these places are all referred to in the Doomsday Book as owning certain amounts of land. Tim, do you want to talk a little about to the groups about the Doomsday Book, one of the key references, and the apportionment, which will lead us on to names of fields?
With the Doomsday Book, when that was taken off, there was two ways they put an entry into the book. They either put it in detail because the land associated it was small enough and they wanted more detail, or for the richer lords and the richer landowners, they grouped everything together. Numbers of properties, number of people, number of slaves, and the amount of land in hides, which is amount of ploughing, amount of space they could work in. What we've got here in this part of Cornwall is three good clear descriptions that cover whole areas rather than individual little villages. So what you've got, the name of each of those is where the centre is, where the manor is, where the seat of power was at that time. Now that can relate into an individual or group of individuals. It can move forward in time, it can move backwards in time. Were they the original people who were allowed to keep the lands because they got on with the Normans, or were they new people? That's the clues that we've got to look at to move forward on. Okay, I'm on big wall.
Okay, yeah.
They're all fairly high up. They've all got good views. They're all places where the owners can stand and survey their land. Everything in the Doomsday Book, if you look at where they're centred, it's where people can survey their land from.
Excellent. Next document. Okay, so you've looked at Doomsday. You found your, and we'll be passing you around the Cornish Doomsday with the entries we're looking for. What's the next set of documents that not only give you interesting information from the past, but give you the names of fields? What do we call the next major document that we want to see? Tithe map, correct. 1 point available to the group that knows the word for the thing that has to go with the tithe map. You want a tithe map and a, or an. What's it called? The apportionment. What's the apportionment, Tim?
That is the apportionment. It is the list of who owns the land and what that land is called.
So can you find these documents? There's one and there's the other.
There's
tithe
the
map. Two little ones. A brownie looking one and an apportionment. Okay, you better give them back to the green group. Now, what is the name? And this is a race in time, and this is so good it's worth 2 points to the group that gets it. What is the name of the field that our site is on the tithe map? Shout it out when you get it. No help from the coordinators. Gear down, green group, get those 2 points. So, gear. We have a lady here who's studying the Cornish language. Would you like to talk to us a little bit? Doing a course so it happens in London in Cornish language. Gear. Can you tell us anything about that?
Gear, the word comes from Angir, and you said another word as well.
Kaya.
Kaya, yeah,
related.
which is related to it. It means a walled enclosure or a walled fort.
So from a map drawn up in 1840, we are getting a reference in Celtic Cornish, which refers to a prehistoric or Celtic period, probably, enclosure going back to possibly the Iron Age.
But what is frightening is, other than on the tithe maps, that name vanishes. So that is your last clue in written history that exists on maps and in written document.
So if you're looking at a site in your area and you're thinking, well, 1840, a bunch of farmers calling the place Goatfield or Corn Meadow or something like that, sometimes that tithe map can be the last record of an Iron Age, or in our case Celtic, place name. makes you realise what a valuable resource those Tithe maps are. So, what do we know? Name of the field gear, we got it from the Tithe map, we know that's ancient, we've had the Cornish version of that, means a wall enclosure. Next step we're going to look at is the aerial photographs. Have a look at those aerial photographs. And I'd like you to think about the relationship on that photograph, our site and the road. What is going on?
Somewhere around there.
there's a king.
Yes.
It goes more
So the original road followed,
followed the curve.
it went round the monument.
Yeah.
Went round it. The new one's gone.
The new one's gone through. I suppose one of the problems with desk-based research is that we haven't got a sense in ourselves, having not been to the site, of what the topography is. And when you see a site in 3 dimensions, exactly, when you see the site in 3 dimensions, it changes your perception of it. So interesting, armed with this, to go to the site.
So how do you definitely know that that feature is not, giving you a slight clue here, not archaeological, not ancient?
I mean, it really does sit.
It doesn't appear
If we
anything
now
there
know
on
that,
maps, yes.
if we're at
Exactly,
people
it only
that's
goes back to the
carrying on
1880s.
Yeah, if you come to this one, this is actually part of the contents for the site.
you've got the ones on there.
So is that outer feature that we saw
And
on
we
the...
think that continues around.
Oh, so it's not actually right on the knoll
No,
then,
it's
it's
not.
just
No.
tipping
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
What we've been doing here is the thing that Mick spends most of his life doing. He calls it retrospective map analysis. You get all the maps, you collect them all together, and then you go back through them and see what is and isn't there. Do the routes change? Is there a feature that disappears? And we know from this that the rather odd bite taken out is relatively modern, at least post whatever our earliest Tithe map is.
Possibly.
Oh, possibly. Possibly, very good. So, possibly we know. This analysis, having all the maps on the table, is exactly why Mick says every good archaeologist and historian should have a big table in his house. You can't do this on a computer, I don't think. I couldn't do it. The business of us sorting this out, looking at one map, ranging through another, unless you're very clever like Mr. Darch, you can't do it. Okay.
He's got 2 monitors.
I thought he might. So, will you now summarise where you think we've got to from all this analysis with our site?
Shout out if you think I'm going wrong. But we've identified the name of the field is Gear. We know that Gear goes back into the ancient Celtic language, meaning a walled enclosure or farmstead. Settlement, something like that was there. We know that it's existed throughout history, right to this modern time, pretty much in its current format. We've got modern features that are cutting across it, which is beginning to take it back in time to confirm that it's older than it looks on a map when you first see it. When you go to see the site, you will see there are features there that what we're thinking may be there, the historical theory, will actually become the material fact.
I'm not sure I understand that.
At the moment, it's all theory. We're seeing what we've got there. Can we confirm it? That's got to be at the next stage. What we have potentially found, through its name, through the history, through the books, is, and I'm going to say it, an Iron Age settlement. Is it? Is it older? Is it newer? There's only one way we're going to find out now.
Why are you doing this in groups? A gentleman called Rogers wrote one of the earliest books on group projects in local community, and he said a couple of things. What makes the historian archaeologist is his or her judgment, the critical sense, the appreciation of what evidence to believe and what not to believe. The advantage of working in groups is that its members foster the development of each other's judgment. So when you're, are you sure, do you know, you're beginning to develop a critical sense to the evidence, which is essential, I think, to develop things. Thank you very much. Thank you to Tim and Carl for leading this session, and we'll see you at 4 o'clock, where you might get a glimpse of the geophysics.